on. No. Good morning. Hello there, my lovely Kerfuffle audience. How are you? I am delighted to have, as it says on the screen, the wonderful, the bouncy, the Tigger-like Jeremy from Homeflow. How are you, Jeremy?
I'm on good form, thank you, Simon. You okay?
You are always on good form. As I said to you off air, I'm always fairly sickened when I see you on the same bill, because I know that instantaneously I'm going to be the second worst speaker that day, because you tend to you are renowned for delivering exceptional, and I do mean this, exceptional content, and especially speeches in general. So I particularly, you're my Steve Jobs in my heart in terms of presentations.
Well, thank you for setting me up for a guaranteed failure.
Well, you could have gone with thanks for comparing me to a dead guy, but we're not doing that. Right. So, Jeremy, you run the web leviathan at Homeflow with your partner Adam. We're going to touch into that a little bit today. We're going to talk about nice generic title, your website foundations. But I'm assuming, just like foundation, there's a reason we're honing in on that. So that's going to be good for those people that have lived under a rock for the last few years. Do you want to just give a little bit of background just in terms of Homeflow and how you got into this game?
Sure. Yes. Well, we're 10 years old, maybe a little over now, actually. And we started out building search engines for newspaper groups, the likes of London Evening Standard, Trinity Mirror Newspaper Group, NewsQuest, all those really big regionals, trying to help them build websites like Rightmove and Zoopla, so search engines, if you like.
Yeah.
And roundly got beaten out of that within about 3 years. I mean, we got quite a long way. We were running about 20 of them, and it was a big business, had decent traffic and what have you. But the trouble was, Zoopla were going around buying distribution deals from newspaper groups, whilst we were trying to charge newspaper groups to build their search engines. So we, the difference in us charging versus them being paid by Zoopla to build Zoopla's business was just too big for the newspaper groups to stomach. So that got us into websites about 8 years ago, and we've not looked back really. We've taken that engine that is it's a sort of a higher grade of engine, because if you have to compete with Rightmove and Zoopla on search, you have to build proper polygon-based search, really quick results serving, really good SEO. It's a different level of game from estate agency websites. It's a much tougher game, technologically speaking. So we brought that kind of quality of engine and brought it into and become very quickly market leader in building websites for estate agents, from the top of the market, the really big 100 branches, right the way down through to 300 single branch independents. Anyone who's wanting a good website, that's us.
Thank you. Well, thank you for joining us on the show today. That was so succinct. I think we can finish.
Can we go home?
How much difference is there? Look, I do know you deal with corporate clients. You have small clients there. What difference is there in terms of delivering a website for a small agent and for the larger ones? I mean, other than just complexity and sophistication, what changes in the process for you?
Well, the main difference is if you're a single branch or multi-branch, because structurally in your website, if you're a single branch, it's probably your homepage, which is going to be ranking on Google rather than your branch pages. And if you're a multi-branch agency, your SEO challenge, and hopefully we're going to get to talking a bit about SEO today, but search engine optimization, getting traffic out of Google, is by a long way the biggest source of traffic for estate agents, and consequently getting that right is really important. And it's just a different challenge for a single branch independent than it is for a multi-branch network, because a multi-branch has to sort of like try and optimize for all the towns they're in, and they have to use their branch pages. A single branch agency, we can use the homepage as a tool, as well as the branch pages and staff pages. So that's the biggest difference. Otherwise, it comes down really to, it's much more about the kind of client you've got, whether the client is digitally really switched on and is driving and is wanting bespoke design and is wanting to really push integrations and what have you, or whether you've got someone who is more at a sort of basic level of, I just need a website, it needs to be good, clean looking on my brand, needs to work well, get my phone number out there. So it's more about what the client wants really, rather than sort of the size of the business per se.
Is that where I mean, so many businesses are like that, of course. Is that where it all starts, really, what the client wants?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, no, that's exactly it. I mean, at its most fundamental, a website for an estate agent needs to get across the phone number so someone can ring you. And everyone forgets that. They sort of build these really fancy design palaces. And
Jeremy, genuinely, when we built a website, I had no other idea other than it's got to have the phone call at the top, because when you go through to a website and it doesn't deliver on that most basic premise, doesn't it? That most that's what a lot of people are doing. It's so frustrating. So, there are so many websites that do such clever things and forget the basics.
There we go.
Yeah, good. So what are some of the common pitfalls when people are looking at website solutions, and specifically for agents? What are some of the things to watch out for?
It's a good question. I mean, the thing that frustrates us most of all is when agents just buy on price. They simply say, how much does it cost? And some of the inquiries we get in just literally say, I don't want to talk to you until you tell me how much it costs. And we can tell them how much it costs. But the problem is, sometimes the cheap websites that you can buy are the worst possible investments you can make. I mean, they're the most expensive websites, because if you buy a cheap website and your SEO is half as good as it could be, then actually that website has been 3 times more expensive than the most expensive website you could possibly have bought. I mean, and the trouble is, many people don't think like that. Many people don't think it's a marketing tool, and it's probably their most important marketing tool. It's all of their social media. That's what I meant by the foundations thing in the title that we gave the talk, Simon, was all of your social media, all of your SEO, all of your pay-per-click, all of your brand building, all your boards, all your newspaper ads if you're still doing them. Everything is driving people to try and find you, and probably where they turn is either to Google or straight to your browser and looking for you. So if you get that wrong, then all of your marketing efficiency is hampered by 30%. And that makes, whether you're charging 300 quid a branch or 150 quid a branch or 60 quid a branch, doesn't really matter. It's dwarfed by getting it right. Does that make sense? So it's just the most important decision. No,
it's absolutely. We talk about it so often on this show in terms of, just because it's cheap doesn't mean that it ultimately won't be expensive. You can make such bad decisions. And to be fair, this should be the easiest sell of all time for agents, because of course, so many agents, when they're talking about, the cut price agents or the online agents, have got very good now at justifying, obviously, why paying a little bit extra in terms of fee will ultimately end up getting a better result for you. So the analogy should work completely easily, shouldn't it, for you guys, in terms of, look, why would you possibly hamper your main source of leads?
It should. But I think the trouble is, buying a website is something that, as an estate agent, you probably only do every 3 years on average. I mean, some of them go 5 years, some of them upgrade every year or two. But it's a rare decision, and it's probably not your primary job, right? You're probably an estate agent or a manager. You might have a digital marketer. To be honest, the reason why Homeflow has got lots of larger agency groups, we're busy building the new Connell's group website. But the reason that when you get to really large agency groups, they choose Homeflow is because they have digital marketing teams, and those digital marketing teams are experts and spend the time to understand the quality differences. And we do pick up independents who understand the difference, but that's my main frustration. You're saying, what are the pitfalls? Is people who, because they're only buying every 3 years and because it's not their primary line of business, they just sort of think, look, all websites, they've all got a homepage, they've all got a navigation, they've all got property search, and it's true, but it's a bit like saying all cars have got 4 wheels. Not all cars are a Porsche 911. Some cars have got better engines. Some cars go faster. Some cars look better. Some cars have better servicing and history. Some cars just have better engineering in them. Does that make sense?
It absolutely does. You've got. I love our suspicious listeners and watchers. Zoe Easton makes a fantastic name drop there. So
thank you, Zoe. Sorry about that.
The PR department. We weren't meant to mention it just yet.
No, it's fine. It's a committed client, so it's fine.
That's obviously a huge bit of business, and they don't make too many mistakes on the technology front. So congratulations on that one there. That's particularly good. How is the? Apart from just adding in functionality, what do you think are the chief differences for selling a website now and to selling a few years ago?
Well, I think that level of sophistication is coming up. I think people are starting to understand more about the differences and what you need to do. So it's not like the olden days where it was all education. These days, quite a few people come to you because they understand what they need a difference. They need something that makes a better performance. So that's probably a difference. I think design as a differentiation slowed down. I think designs have started to stabilize a bit. It used to be the case that the design was changing quite quickly. Now I think it's more to do with getting we're sort of at 90%, and now we're moving to 95 and 98% in terms of sort of optimization. Does that make sense? Whereas in the heady days of 10 years ago, it was just the layouts were changing really quickly. And I think the other thing is the other difference is about 5 years ago, you still had people who couldn't do mobile. I mean, now it's rare to find someone who doesn't have a mobile kind of, who doesn't address mobile on their website, at least at some level. Does that make sense? I mean, most people are, most people have got a mobile. Most people have got some form of responsive website.
I'm particularly interested by your point there, which strikes me as there's a similarity with where we're up to almost with smartphones. When, if we go back 10 years, there was a tremendous amount of difference, weird and wonderful phone designs and everything else. They have to a large degree homogenized, haven't they? If you look at a Samsung, you look at an iPhone there, that brutally speaking, form factor, functionality has kind of got to such a period of evolution. I mean, a lot of people criticize it for saying there's not innovation there. But would that be fair to say where we feel like we're up to at the moment with websites?
Look, I don't think so. I think there's plenty of room to go. I mean, if you just open the yellow pages at a random page and look at an average estate agent's website, there's still an awful lot that can be improved. In terms of its integrations with, whether it's its instant valuation tools or its portal leads and what have you, in terms of its user account functionality, still the grade. I mean, no, we've got a long, long way to go to get the grade up in general. But definitely form factor on devices. Sorry, Simon, if your question was more about hardware, I mean, phones, you're right. You can pick up an iPhone or a Samsung S9 and you can sort of if you're not paying attention, you can't really tell the difference. Yeah. And the same is true of laptops. They all sort of look similar and have quite large screens and high resolutions. It's now more about how you use it and what you do with it than necessarily just its pure processing power.
So if there isn't that homogenization, who are the people doing websites that you think actually that's interesting, that delivers, and crucially feels different as well? You don't have to just name your own, by the way. That would be.
To be honest, I can't think of one off the top of my head. I think there's lots of people doing good stuff with video, and it's just about finding. We're so conservative. We're about finding the right balance. I mean, we don't like it when people go doing zingy, zany stuff, which is kind of looks interesting. Normally, there's a wisdom in the crowd of doing the normal stuff. Does that make sense? I mean, if you do stuff too kind of crazy on the outlier, or you take away your menu and just put a hamburger menu, which is quite trendy for a while. The trouble is, not all users get that. So being at the bleeding edge of design, it can create a good impression and it can make you look zingy. But if you go too far, it's quite easy to overcook that. It's quite easy to take it a bit too far and then miss 60% of your audience who are at that kind of they're at that more basic level. So customers, if you deal with Joe Public, we're doing a whole lot of user testing. And it's so eye-opening to sort of get users in front of an agent's website, and something that you probably think, you've designed with the client, and the client thinks it's wonderful. The client really likes this idea, or you have come up with something, and then you put it in front of users, and users just don't understand it. I mean, I saw one the other day where they were showing their photo doctoring, sort of how they cleaned up photos, and they had like a big photo of a house, and then they had a slider, and you could slide the slider across and back, and as you slid it across, it would make the photo underneath reveal as this kind of crisp blue skies, bright green grass kind of thing. But the slider handle, and so it's a groovy bit of technology and a groovy bit of service for their customers as well. But if you, and they were dead proud of this, but if you put this in front of users didn't understand what it was they were trying to convey, nor did they understand they could grab that handle and move it. So 90% of that energy was just wasted because the customer wasn't understanding what they were doing with it. So that's the kind of difference that we're trying to get into is proper user testing with real users in the real world to work out what they do understand. And that's the science of it, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does. It does. We had this is the final stage of our 4 mafia families from the world of web in a state agency. We had Mike Smithson on, obviously Ben from Starbury, Alex from Apps, and one of the things we've been asking
who are they?
Very good, very good.
I'm joking. They're great. They're great. They're great.
I would expect nothing. Well, I think what I was going to talk about is what you've all got very distinct differences and everything else, and you've all been in the game, for a long, long time with many happy clients. But when I ask that question, and when we talk about one of the biggest threats, where there was uniformity, was that actually one of the biggest things that agents can make a mistake is, first of all, you've highlighted obviously just going for cheap, I think in any walk of life doesn't deliver, but then going with the local guy is a big issue, whereby he has no estate agency knowledge at all, and so has to reinvent the wheel with things like portal feeds, digital assets that are fairly unique to a state agent. Would you? Well, the head slap tells me I'm on the right track. Is that probably one of the biggest no-nos?
It is, and what you and the trouble is, what you get, and it's still 50% of customers are building websites locally, or they're building them on WordPress, and there are various plugins you can use and what have you. But the trouble is, you're forever reinventing the wheel. I mean, it's a bit like saying, I'll go to my local garage and say, can you build me a new car? You know, invent an engine, invent a steering wheel, invent a sunroof, it's just like, fine, they probably can, but you'll be forever then investing and keeping up, because then something new comes along, and you're not getting the benefit. And that's why, you know, there are agents who build their own CRM systems, but you know, there's a reason why people buy Excel, and there's a reason why people buy sort of big block CRM systems. Is because it's just more efficient. You've got to be a really big agency group to be doing that engineering yourself, if that makes sense, and keeping up.
Yeah, it totally does, because people forget. They go for the sizzle, don't they? They go for the sizzle, and it's often a very narrow bit of functionality. It might be like you just mentioned before, actually, and they put all their focus on delivering that. But what they realise, and they you know, IT departments, if they when they've been a little bit cheeky, have explained to the owners, oh yes, you'll need a lot of money to get this off the ground, but when we get there, you'll be paying a lot less ongoing. But when does the expectation level for clients and indeed the consumer ever fall off? If anything, it's increasing, isn't it? So it's a complete false premise that you won't continue to need development and indeed investment. And the problem is, you're obviously as well, when you're looking bespoke or going with the local guy, you don't benefit from any of the innovation that comes from the rest of the client base. And that's massive, isn't it?
It is massive, and that does hook into another couple of frustrations as a supplier, is you often get people who are allergic to monthly fees, and they'd much rather spend capital expenditure up front to build the thing. And they sort of like, as because they're property folks, and because we're property folks, often they'll own their own offices as well. So they don't rent an office, because they kind of love property. They love buying something and owning it as an asset. Fundamentally, the industry we're in is about ownership, you know, for the most part. And I think that therefore there's this kind of siren call of, I'll buy my website, and then hosting should cost me 20 quid a month, because that's what hosting costs. And that's not what real hosting costs, proper, fast grade, decent, you know, secure hosting costs. But you can virtually host a website for a small agency for that kind of level. But they're allergic to monthly fees, and they don't really understand what they're paying for. They don't understand that is what they're paying for, is that kind of level of innovation, that kind of level of continuous integration. And in the end, they pay the same, but they just pay it again in 3 years' time, because they have to sort of do that upgrade cycle all again and spend another £50,000 building another one. You know, it's like, so they're in this kind of conveyor belt of, you know, of that. That's one frustration. And the other frustration is, as you say, is going for sizzle, is going for like some feature that, you know, they've been shown, which looks great and might be great, by the way. And it might be that we need to get those really fantastic ideas integrated in, but not being balanced and not being moderate and not thinking about it in the round and not understanding the whole thing. Because why would you? You're only buying one of these things every 3 years. And so, you know, how can you be an expert in it? Does that make sense? It's not like something you do 3 times a month, whereas, you know, we do it dozens of times a month. So, yeah.
It's a really interesting dynamic that I always used to get very frustrated and a little bit jealous, is that in the early days when we were trying to sell Repeat, and we were in a high price point, especially very high price point for what had traditionally been around 100 quid a month, you know, Desres in the old days. And we would never believe that a true value had been put on it. And what we got frustrated at, that was, as soon as it started talking about websites, not everybody, but there would be a propensity for a certain sort of owner to shout about, oh, we've just spent 6 figures on this website, as if it was like a designer car or something like that, you know. Do you think that ethos of the capital outlay is changing now, though? So the software as a service model in web does feel like it's not the norm?
No, I'm not sure. Definitely, you get many, many more people understand the service license and what it entails, and you get much, much less complaint about that. And I think that's just as Rightmove's become more expensive, as CRMs have become more expensive, and as technology has become something that is absolutely central. And, you know, you don't really find very many estate agents. I mean, back in the day, 6 years ago, you used to find estate agents saying, "I don't need a website. What do I want a website for? Everyone's going to go to Rightmove," and I'm like. I don't even know where to start that conversation. I mean, it's like, if people are searching for your brand on Google and you don't have a website and you don't get your phone number out, can we start with that basic premise? And most people can get their heads wrapped around that one. You don't get that anymore. People understand that it's really quite fundamental to their marketing, and they understand that it is that founding block that, you know, if they're going to do social media, if they're going to do video, or if they're going to do email marketing, or if they're going to do portal advertising and use email response systems, all of it leads back to that website block. And if that website block can be just 5% more efficient at converting people into inquiries and lead flow and into human contact, it pays for itself. I mean, you are a big proponent of ROI and ROI-based sort of like explanation and pricing. You can do it in so many different ways with the website. You can just explain the value model, the lead flow you get. We do all sorts of benchmarking of sort of leads to traffic and what have you. It's really easy to sort of show that just getting this decision right is very, very important. But no, sorry, to come back to your question, I'm wondering, I don't think it has changed. I think you do still find people who do make that big capital outlay. I mean, frankly, even in this current climate, we see them. They're obviously further and fewer between right now because there's a bit more financial duress on people. But no, I think people still do. And that's not wrong. I mean, some people want to build a brand temple. So some people want to do something which distinguishes them from their competition and to show the fact that they are a strong agency group. And, you get what you pay for. If you do something which is, you spend more time on it, as long as you don't go crazy with design and do design for design's sake, it does show if you build a good quality sort of website.
The thing I love about the SaaS rental model is, though, that it hard codes into any business that an existing client is worth as much as a new client. So it just means that, most companies obviously want to look after. They don't just say that our customers come first. Or sorry, some do say that and then don't deliver on it. But the good thing about that SaaS model is that it genuinely does. Okay, you all want to add new clients, but that rental model means that we need to keep delivering for this company. And that's what I would be doing is, ultimately over time, it may be that you pay more, but you've got far more bang for your buck anyway, haven't you?
Yeah. No, I agree. I mean, SaaS is the model we chose to, and we were charging SaaS licenses for websites from before. I mean, basically the whole market has come into line with that in the last sort of 5-6 years.
It has. Well, I always said, when we were there, you were the repeat of the web world, weren't you? Because you did kick off that model uniquely. Another thing, and I have, the other thing I've shamelessly nicked from you over the years, and there's many things that I've stolen, but you talk about obviously the importance of that website as being your, if it was a branch, the amount of traffic that it gets and everything else, it's always your most busy branch, isn't it, in terms of there? How do you present that now back to people? Is there anyone that still doesn't get that?
No. Well, to be honest with you, one of the things we do because we do with all of our customers, we do some reviews. We have a customer success team, and we will review the performance of their website with them, either when they call us or on a 3-monthly cycle. And we use a tool called benchmarking, which is actually an open tool. Hopefully, we'll get to chat about that. It's actually we've done a kerfuffle deal around that. But the point about benchmarking is it's not just like measuring your own traffic and knowing how many people come per branch to your website is one thing. But let's say we get 80 people coming to our branch per day, per branch per day on our website. Is that good or is that bad?
Yeah, because it's irrelevant, isn't it? You might as well have used a random number generator.
Exactly. It's only relevant when you say, there's two ways you can make it relevant. Is that up on the 70 we had last month and the 60 we had the month before? That's good. Now we've got a trend versus our own historical performance. But what's even better is if you know that 80 compares to an industry average of 75. Therefore, your branches are getting thicker levels of traffic than an average agency. And therefore, and then it's only interesting if you start saying, well, why is that? Is that because our SEO is better, or is it because our social media is working for us, or is it because we're doing Facebook advertising? We start to dig into and understand in really simple terms why it is that our website is outperforming or is underperforming. Yeah. So, and to explain it to customers, we use a tool called Homeflow benchmarking, and it is basically, it's got 850 odd agency groups in it. And Zoe will be pleased when I name drop the fact that the whole of the countrywide group are in there, large parts of LSL are in there, the whole of the Connells group are in there, and there's about 500 single branch independent agents, even though we only build websites for about 300 of them. And the reason that they're in that tool, I mean, I can show it to you if you like, but the reason they're in that tool is that it's helping them compare their performance relative to other agents. Does that make sense?
It absolutely does, and we're going to explain this now as you are obviously building on this, what the benchmarking tool to the public. Personally, I just think, first of all, it's really, really useful. You're making use of that, the Google Analytics that everyone, pretty much everyone has access to themselves. But let's be honest, even though Google's done not a bad job, a lot of that can be lost in the minutiae of it. What you've done you've brought this to life now, and actually you created something greater than the sum of the parts, because by having a critical mass now of agents in there, you know, that you are literally able to do, which I'm not aware of anyone else being able to do at the moment, to draw comparisons between pretty much every size of estate agent, type of agent, the geography of that agent there, to slice and dice it on a load of different angles there, so that, you know, there is no unknown now. There is no, you know, how are we doing kind of approach. Yep. And that's really powerful. So yeah, let's talk further about this, because you've been doing this now for a number of years, haven't you? On the
we have. I mean, these two little charts here will show you dead simply what they are, and there's about 20 of them in total. But you're quite right that the Google Analytics is this amazing tool. There's no reason to go anywhere else for your analytics. It does everything you could possibly ask. But the trouble with analytics is it's big and it's complicated. And what you really need is either someone like your supplier, like us, to help you understand it, or you need to spend time going into it, asking a question. So if you just go in and wander around, you know, it's kind of interesting, but you'll get lost. You need to sort of say, my question is, where are my users coming from? Or my question is, how fast is my website? Or my question is, you know, have I got a problem with bounce rate on my branch pages? So you need to know, and if you get really fixed on what your question is, you can go in and you can find the answer. And what the Homeflow thing does is we will then look at, you know, your lines in blue versus the industry average in red on a per branch basis. So we put like a layer on top of Google that A, simplifies it, and B, makes it relevant to comparing one agency group to another. And if you're a rural multi-practice agency, we can put you in a set of rural multi-practice agencies. If you're an urban single branch lettings powerhouse, you know, just a really strong lettings business in Clapham, you know, we can find you other single branch lettings, and we can help you compare, and we can tell you whether your website is running slow compared to the average or fast compared to the average, and we take away all the mystique. I mean, yes, it's complicated, yes, it's technology, but hopefully we pride ourselves on making our job explaining that in really simple terms and explaining the implications, and then showing you what on earth you need to do about it. And that tool is free of charge. I mean, we invite everybody watching today, if you want to get your comparisons, all you need to do is email us. You know,
Jeremy, can we pretend that it's actually it costs something and we give it to Kerfuffle members free of charge?
Oh, well, there is something. No, there is something that we're going to give to Kerfuffle members free of charge. If you want to come to that, but this one, no, I'm afraid we can't really do that, because that would be fibbing, Simon. And this one is free, and we're quite loud and proud about it in the market. It's basically, it's bonkers not to be in it, because all you need to do, and it's totally anonymous, nobody else can see your data, and you can't see anybody else's individual data. You can only see your own data relative to the average for other agency groups in the UK. Does that make sense?
It does, and what I love about it is you are, because some people thinking about this would, I know the conversations I've had at various unnamed companies, is we would have been petrified about what would happen if this highlighted that we weren't delivering, particularly, in all areas. So you said, look, you know, we are, if we aren't delivering, you know, we're going to own that, and we are unashamed of that. We're confident in our own proposition that we're going to do this.
Yeah, I mean, not all of our clients are in it yet, because we launched this after we had already sold a good couple of 300 websites, and we've not managed to convince everyone to join it. And there are some people who just, for whatever reason, they say, no, I don't want to be in it. And you're right, it does divide the world into two: those who are curious about improving their performance, and those who are scared to examine it and shine a light on it. That's in the outside world. We would pick a pretty big fight with one of our customers if they didn't want to go in it, because no one else is going to see your data, and it's kind of your heartbeat. It's kind of your health measurements. It's sort of like, you know, how can we do our job properly and help you to increase your value out of your business and your website if we can't measure your heartbeat, take your weight, measure your height, sort of like see how fast you can run, and then talk to you about how we can get you running faster, fitter, stronger, healthier.
You've just hit it there, actually, unintentionally, talking about taking your, you know, doing a fitness check. The reason I don't go to the gym or take a weight is because I know I'm going to be told, you're a fat bastard. Now,
and yet behind you, turn around and look behind you. What's going on in the backdrop?
You'll notice in previous shows it's been turned on, but now I'm just wasting energy.
Is that right? Is that right? Is there a bit of dust on the screen you need to wipe off?
But of course, the key part about all this is, by definition, with benchmarking, you know, with averages, as many above the line as are going to be under the line, and so then you come into two groups: those that will accept that they are below the line and are striving to obviously increase it, and then there's the ones who just want to shove it under the carpet and say, we don't want to know, we don't want to be told we're crap.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. I mean, and actually, to be honest with you, we don't really come across that. That's not like a prevalent thing. Christians in the house. Yeah, it's not really a prevalent thing that people won't engage with it. Certainly of our clients. I mean, I guess like, yeah.
I was just repeatedly doing it. Don't worry.
Yeah, no, that's good. I don't know if Christian's in the benchmarking or not. He certainly should be. But yeah, anyway, that's that. But the thing we were talking about, what could we do for Kerfuffle members that is special? And one of the things that we do charge for and that we can do is we do a process when we go a bit deeper with this. I mean, basic getting involved in benchmarking is free, and it's a half-hour call. We can take you through all the charts and tell you where you're strong, where you're weak, and what we would recommend to do. And our promise, by the way, is we'll show you some stuff that you can do for free with your current supplier. It's just about building a relationship with people, really. So we'll give plenty of ideas of stuff they can improve just without changing anything, without spending anything, just like simple. I mean, you wouldn't believe the number of simple things they can do. But what we can do if we go a level deeper is we can do a thing we call the site doctor. And the site doctor is where we actually spend and it needs a level of commitment from the client. They need to not financial commitment. It needs them to be able to look you in the eyes and say, I will be available to properly think about this when you do the work, because we then go off for 8 hours and we do a proper, and it's not like a noncy kind of like, run it through a quick tool and see. Well, no, a lot of people do that. A lot of people do that. They kind of run it through some simple SEM rush tool and throw you a report. We don't do that. We actually film the video and edit it down. You've seen some of our videos.
You've done it for me. It's absolutely fantastic. Genuinely, I encourage everybody to do that. It wasn't that, Jeremy. That's the first time, even on this show, that somebody's used the word noncy.
Okay. But I mean, you do get that. It's a common trick amongst web agencies in all walks of life, in all industries. Is there are lots of tools you can do for prospecting, but it is different. It's important to understand the difference in qualities. What we will do is we'll go and look at your website. We will go and either live with you, but we'll go and prepare and actually video through it and show you comparisons to your direct competitors, show you what you're doing, what they're doing, look at your SEO, look at your social media footprint, look at your domain authority, look at your speed. Normally it's in conjunction with this benchmarking tool over here. And we'll actually look through your website and make 50, 60 recommendations for things that you can fix. Now, some of those you can just take away and do with your current supplier. Some of them, obviously, we're going to show you some of the deeper stuff that is going to require a better grade of engine to achieve. Yeah. And obviously, that's why we do it. We hope that people end up to either have a relationship with this on one of our tools, like our Boomerang tool, or our instant valuation tool, or ideally have a relationship with the foundation of their whole website with us. But that doesn't matter. We're quite happy to have a relationship with people that last years, just helping them looking at their data. Because ultimately, what you put in is what you get back, and does that make sense?
It does, but like selling a home, often again to continue the analogies, is you don't buy a website or a CRM system every single week or month, do you? By definition, so that's why offering the good advice, being the trusted advisor, is so important in this area. We've got a Gary Hardy, you'll know, ex of my old company here. Morning, guys. One of the best and most powerful metrics is how many of these inquiries have actually gone on to do something, i.e. viewed, offered, exchanged, instructed to put a real pounds, pence value on leads. Is that something Homeflow are doing, or is it purely dependent on the collaboration with the agent CRM? Thanks, Gary. Nice to see you again.
Well, Gary will, of course, understand that the only people who have that kind of intel, really, typically, will be the CRMs. So Repit, for example, we pass leads over to Repit. We are the only business in the UK that currently has a two-way data exchange with Repit. So if you walk into a branch of a Repit estate agent and they register you into Repit, we actually get a reverse signal coming at us. And that was an integration we did. In fact, frankly, the two people on this screen were responsible for founding that back in the day, 3-4 years ago. 5 years ago, and it's only really 10 or 20 agents who have ever managed to take advantage of that, to be honest with you. But with Foundations, the platform that Repit are now releasing, we've just built the first app in the alpha. They got released, the Street View pinning app. That's really going to open up the ability to link data much more cleanly in the future. And so Gary's right. There's a whole world of analytics that happen on the front end of traffic coming in, getting to the point of lead, getting to the point of inquiry. But really what you want to do is track that right the way down through to, did they instruct, did you get the market appraisal? Did you get the instruction? Did you get any offers? Did it exchange? And, ultimately, did it turn into a fee? And that is very much the Holy Grail that we're trying to join up, is that pipeline from your PPC spend or your organic work on SEO right the way through that pipeline, all the way to the end point of transaction. But you can only do that in concert between a Homeflow and a Repit actually joining up. And that's what we're hoping to do with the Foundations platform over the course of the next couple of years. It's a long time.
I mentioned earlier that I shamelessly stole a lot of your stuff, and one of the graphics that I nicked from you, I think I told you, because I'm normally, at least I'm an honourable thief, was you showed the kind of there was this kind of a set of people over here and a set of people over here, and there was a broken path in between. And I think we were talking about it the way that obviously, you know, different data lakes, different sets of data don't talk to each other. And the way that that's why I was really interested with your, you know, the website being the foundation. You and I have had over a pint or a coffee when we're behaving, had many discussions about, look, we're not being no shit Sherlock here about the most fundamental tools that you can have in your kit bag. Two of them clearly are websites and CRM. And it has been hugely frustrating to everyone, not least ourselves, but the agents, that these two massively important partners to their business have had such little interaction realistically, haven't they? The ability to interrogate each other effectively, to pass leads back and forth. In the past, for example, as you've highlighted, somebody doing something on the website, as there has been no ability in the CRM package to have any visibility over what's going on there, and that's been crazy. So interestingly enough, repeat calling it foundations, that really does promise, doesn't it, give the potential going forwards for that to be sorted out. And indeed, well, look, we know they're not the only ones, of course. There are other ones that luckily now are all going down the open API path, aren't they? So what I'm trying to get to you with is the future good? Is it optimistic in your mind on that front?
Yeah, yes, it is. I mean, look, I have an awful lot of sympathy for all of us, website providers and CRMs in the market. It's hard stuff to do, because you have competing demands from a whole ton of customers building all sorts of stuff, and you've got to try and balance all those demands. So I totally understand why it takes a while to get to that point. And the work that Repeat have done with that foundations platform is phenomenal. I mean, it's really well documented. It's really clear. It's been a joy to work with the team and build that first app, and it really has some openings up for the future. And as you point out, they're not the only people. There are plenty of other people around who now have fully open APIs or are opening up their APIs. It's just a direct travel. It's gravity. It's coming. It's kind of like, as you said, no shit, Sherlock. It's coming at us like gravity. But I would also say I'm optimistic because, to Gary's point, you don't need to get them. I mean, that's running. You don't need to. You've got to walk before you run. I mean, there's some real basics we can go back to about. There's some real basics you can go back to before that point, which are just understanding where your traffic comes from. Most agents can't answer that question. If you go into most agents and say, what proportion of your traffic comes from social media? Most of them cannot answer that question when you ask them first. And if you're in that category of agent, it's really, really important now to understand and get a clear understanding of how that's changing over time, the dynamics of that. And getting it just to the point of leads. I mean, leads have a value. Different kinds of leads, like a branch lead or a staff lead or a property lead or a valuation lead or an instant valuation lead. They all have different values in the market. We actually have a value model that we build where we ask the agent to put a price on each one. We've got like an average price people put on them. But it's like a spreadsheet. And you can say, this will tell me what it's worth when I get 10% more traffic from SEO. Or this will tell you what it cost when I launch that new website and it destroys, because often customers come to us and go, we just launched a new website and we've disappeared off the surface of the earth from an SEO perspective. Can you help us? And we look at it and go, yeah, I mean, you have just destroyed your traffic. And there is a journey you have to go on now to rebuild that. So there's an awful lot you can achieve before getting to that integration, just in terms of understanding your lead flow, understanding where it's coming from and what generated it in the first instance. And so if we're talking about rungs and a ladder, I mean, obviously above the rung of just pure integration, you then want to go on to transactional stuff and being able to like place offers and give viewings feedback and, and like all the stuff the trackers do. So yeah, and Gary, as ever, he's quite right. It's just about balancing your spend. I mean, if you throw all your eggs into one basket and have it, it's like you're only as strong as the weakest link in your chain. So if your website's completely rubbish, but you've got fantastic CRM, that link in the chain is broken. And vice versa, if your website's fantastic and your CRM doesn't help you use the data that it generates, that link is broken. And you've got to sort of link all these pieces together. And if your Facebook marketing is no good, or your Google Ads work is no good, or your SEO is no good, then you're not going to be shoving the stuff in the jet fuel in the front of the engine. So you've got to invest your money in balance all the way along the chain. Does that make sense?
It does. The last time I heard you're the weakest link in the chain was on the team meeting this morning when they all pointed at me. But that always comes from surrounding yourself better than you. Are there any metrics you can give us or that are publicly available as far as you beauty?
You sounded like you were about to get serious, so I just thought
I was just wondering, are there percentages that you're able to benchmark in terms of where what percentage, for example, of your leads should be coming from social media and all that? Are you able to help them out with those kind of benchmarks when you do your doctoring?
We absolutely are. I'm going to take my hat off because it's done something funny to my virtual camera. I think it's freaked it out, and my shirt's gone all fuzzy. Yeah, no, there absolutely are some benchmarks we can give people. And as you know, we've started filming some videos for you for the Kerfuffle campus. Sorry.
I just said they're really, really brilliant. They're a real eye-opener. Just in general, if you take anything from this, I encourage you to go to the Homeflow website, and the resources you can get on there are second to none, I have seen, in terms of, and it's more generic stuff as well, isn't it, Jeremy? You even look at like call centers and things like that. So you've a lot of analytical work that I think should be a bookmarked page in any agent's library.
Okay, well, that's very kind of you. What I would also say, and I extend this offer today, is if anybody's got a question on their mind, like it might be, how do I track that data through, like Gary's asking, or it might be, I got one the other day, should I write long property descriptions because our operational team want to shorten the property descriptions they write just to cite one paragraph, like a lot of modern agencies do? Is that going to have an impact on my SEO? What do you think? If an agency has a question on their mind, we don't want to make these videos on these marketing topics into thin air. We'd far rather answer real questions. So what I'm hoping we get going with Kerfuffle is I'm hoping that you start saying to us, look, I was with this agency the other day and they asked us, like I got one this morning, a guy is buying a new domain name and he wants to know, look, I've got a really great domain name available. If I go .uk, is it important to get .co.uk? Now we have a view on that topic, but I'd far rather get questions like that and make a little 3 or 4 minute instructional video with kind of like our view and the pluses and minuses and why, and then publish it. And we can do some of that via Kerfuffle Campus, obviously. So.
I'm grinning a little bit, Jeremy, because I did just in the last few weeks, against the advice of just everybody, purchase the kerfuffle.com thing. So I am hoping that was still a good idea. So like I said earlier, I'm not going to look at your video for fear of saying there's no need to anymore.
No. So you're on kerfuffle.it, aren't you, at the moment?
We were. It was we like the idea of turning it into a bit like a verb. Kerfuffle it. But actually,
I get it.
One thing
but the thing, Simon, sorry to interrupt you. The thing is, you're fine. I think you're fine on either one. And the reason I think you're fine is because of your branding, because of your kind of your pink and the sort of the noise and how well known you are in the market and the way that the whole thing's branded. You've got a strike through, punch through brand anyway. I don't think people are going to be, and if they search for Kerfuffle. Actually, it isn't separately for you. We should talk about if you search for Kerfuffle, because it is actually a word, you actually get other results coming up. So you need to do Kerfuffle estate agent or Kerfuffle agent. But I don't think getting Kerfuffle.com, well, actually, another topic. Let's take it offline. Getting Kerfuffle.com may actually help with that. So, these days,
Jeremy, you know what this has done is this has turned into one of those private consultancies. So
yes, exactly. So we're boring your 150 viewers, Simon.
Yeah. Okay. Right. You mentioned earlier in terms of obviously going through and looking at some of these key analytics. Bounce is a critical one there that I think everybody understands at a top level. This is people going onto your website for whatever reason, not finding what they want and then literally bouncing away again. What are the most common causes of bounce and what can you do to alleviate it?
Speed. So this chart at the bottom here is probably the single most important variable going. And we spend a lot of time measuring Homeflow speed versus our competitor speed to make sure that we're always about 20%, 30% faster, or as fast as we can be. But we can demonstrably prove that through a chart that shows Homeflow versus non-Homeflow and versus our different competitors' speed. And if your website is slow to serve, it's like having poor quality carpet in your office. It's kind of this invisible factor which just goes through the whole of everything. It just imbues itself on the website. It will decrease the number of pages per session. It will increase your bounce rate. It will reduce your repeat visit ratio. All of the above in kind of an invisible way. It's just the quality of how no one wants to wait for anything. And it's not on a single page impression. If someone's determined to find out the name of the negotiator that took them on the viewing yesterday by going to the website, they will battle through a website that loads in 12 or 14 seconds on average. They'll battle through. But the point is, on average, if you throw 1,000 people in, it'll damage the performance of your website. So that's the key thing on bounce rate. Another thing is page design. If the page just doesn't answer their question, or sometimes the other thing you have to understand is there is also, it's like good cholesterol, bad cholesterol. There is a good bounce as well. So if your SEO is really good, or if your email marketing is really good, then it might be sending loads of people to new properties. And actually, that's a single page journey is perfectly fine. I just went to look at that property. Your email system is running quicker than Rightmove and Zoopla, so you're getting the email alerts out to users before they are, or you're controlling your data flow. And actually, that's good bounce. So it's dead important just when you get a bounce rate to actually dig underneath it a little bit to understand is that good bounce or bad bounce.
I think that's really interesting. I'd never considered that there was any positivity from the bounce.
Defo. Yeah, and also if your website, if you get your SEO really cranking and your branch pages are ranking in slot 1 or 2, which we'll chat about in just a second, across all your branches or on your main branch, you may be answering people's questions in one hit. I mean, there was one of our competitors once said to me, "Oh, we don't put phone numbers on home pages because it encourages one more page impression." And we've watched one of your videos that explains that more page impressions gets you better SEO. And I'm like, yeah, but not at the expense of user experience. You've got to make sure that you're doing things for your end users at the end of the day. Actually, if I can just show you one of the charts I've put together here, which is, I think this is a dead interesting one.
It's one of those Gartner style ones, isn't it?
It is. It's a 2x2 matrix, and I'll explain it to you, Simon. Basically, and it's coming out in the new Kerfuffle video that I am just about to send Emmeline tomorrow. But basically, it is a tool that takes 5,000 different locations across the UK. So it gets 5,000, in this instance, 5,400 locations, and it runs searches, 190,000 searches for estate agent in, letting agent in, each and every single one of those towns. And then what it does, it produces you this league table. And so you can see who's ranking right at the top here. You can see Rightmove getting all their traffic organically.
Oh, wow.
You can see aggregation. As you come on down, you can see Purple Bricks up here, this red one, buying nearly all their traffic there. And then as you come down, you start seeing really savvy on the Hunters group buying a ton of traffic. That's their organic traffic there. And you can't see it in the chart very clearly on the video.
No, I can make
keep your eyes open for that video. And what this does is we then plot that on this 2x2 matrix, and we can basically show you, and all these little green dots, they are all UK estate agents. And we can carve that down for your town, your county, your village, your area. And we can show you who is ranking in paid search and who's ranking in organic search, left and right. Does that make sense? So obviously you want to go as hard towards good organic performance as you can. And then you want to start buying traffic. And then you start finding yourself in amongst the kind of the Your Moves and the Hunters and the Savills and what have yous.
Yeah. Must have Supplier catnip.
There you go. Well, it's coming out in a video to you, sir, near you soon.
That's great. That genuinely, Jeremy, I will keep an eye out for that one. That's really good. We spoke about bounce rate there. Obviously, everyone will understand that at some point you need to have what's it? I've just forgot it. CTAs. What are they? They're
call to action.
Call to actions. Yeah, sorry, I just went blank there. So, what CTAs work for you on websites? What are you advising?
Wow, another huge topic, and we could talk for hours just on this alone, and wouldn't that be interesting? The call to action. One of the common tricks is just putting contrasting button colors. I mean, I think one of your previous suppliers has talked about that. But if your website is for the predominant, color palette green, and find something at the opposite end of the color wheel, like an orangey yellow, to use for your call to actions, and don't use that for other things, so that you get a nice clear information hierarchy. One of our videos talks about information hierarchy, just getting really nice clear what is the primary purpose, secondary purpose, tertiary purpose of the page, and making sure that the primary purpose is materially clearer than the second. Because everyone sort of goes, I need this, and then I need this, and then I need this, and 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 all of a sudden it becomes kind of like this monotone thing. Whereas what we try and do is try and tilt that so that you get an important purpose for each page. So that's in the information design. I'd say another really simple trick is just putting an exposed contact form, asking the question, on every page. Not putting email addresses on pages, because though that's convenient for users, it doesn't mean the website has any opportunity to capture identity or to get it logged in a database. But just making sure that, and then having staff pages. So many estate agent websites don't have staff profile pages, and people buy from people, and people search for people as well. You can get some 4% of your traffic from people searching for agents by name, by individual person's name.
Well, I've challenged a load of agents over the years on this, and the most common one that comes back is that I don't want to give the recruitment people or our competitors surely we're beyond that now, aren't we?
Yeah. I once went to a lecture by Scott McNeely, the founder of Sun.com, and it was very early days internet, and Sun.com was big news at the time, running half the servers on the internet. And someone asked him in the auditorium, but what about privacy in this new world of the internet that's coming? This is like 15, 20 years ago. And he said, you have no privacy, get over it. Which I thought was from a public company CTO, quite a striking statement. And now I don't necessarily agree with it, because I think there's lots of things you can do to control your privacy online and to be careful with the way you handle data. And I think GDPR is, broadly speaking, is a fantastic thing. But the point stands that it's very hard to hide on the internet. And it's if I want to find out the names of the staff in in fact, frankly, we make a business out of finding out the names of people in branches, across the UK. It's not hard. They're on LinkedIn. If they want to be recruited, if they're open to being recruited, they have a LinkedIn profile. And actually, frankly, 90% of them have a LinkedIn profile anyway already. And you're just not harnessing the benefit of it. You're running scared rather than being brave. I think that was a fear, though, Simon, that we found was very prevalent 5 years ago. We don't get that objection anymore when we speak to agents about staff pages. It's kind of like, I think it's history already in the common psyche. I mean, you still do, and unfortunately, it tends to be from senior management who are sort of like, who are worried about their staff and their team, but they're sort of like not quite in the future yet.
Okay. Give us. I knew this had happened. I can see we've almost done 50 minutes. You and I talking. We're not going to have the first 2-hour show because I think we'd enjoy it. I'm not sure the public would. Give us an idea of your price points there. What should people be expecting to pay? I appreciate it's how long a piece of string and everything else, but to engage with Homeflow, what would they be looking at in terms of expenditure?
Sure, we can talk about that. I mean, broadly speaking, I can give you an exclusive to Kerfuffle announcement on this front. Ooh. But broadly speaking, there are two ways we charge. There is the upfront build fee, and there's the ongoing license. And the upfront build fee will depend largely on whether you're building a bespoke website or if you're buying a theme. And a theme, posh word for a template. We have themes that are free of charge, and we have themes that are, a few £100s. We have themes that are thousands of pounds. We have themes all the way up to a good few £1,000s, depending on what they do and so forth. And then if you're going bespoke, building a proper bespoke website, don't let anyone tell you otherwise. Building it properly and thinking about it and doing a good quality job is north of 10,000. It's probably north of 12,000, and probably doing it well north of 15,000. And so that normally divides people into I want a theme or I want bespoke. And bespokes are a piece of string, as some of your previous guests have observed. Some people will spend really big money building a website. And it's not wasted money. I mean, I think one of your guests implied that it was wasted money. It's not wasted money because there's a ton of thought and user testing and re-engineering and optimization works. And for businesses of that scale, getting a 2% improvement in the conversion of your website is worth hundreds of thousands of pounds a year for a large business, for a big agency group. For a mid-scale agency group, it's worth tens of thousands of pounds, a year to get little small percentage increases in performance. So it's not, getting it right is worth it. So that's basically the build. It's anywhere from free right the way up to 100,000 plus, all the way up. That's the build. The licensing, ordinarily the basic unit price is £150 per branch per month. But there are all sorts of variants on that, depending on whether you're buying some of the bolt-on tools like our Boomerang tool or our instant valuation tool or what have you. And I can exclusively reveal, for the first time ever in the UK, we are just about to introduce 3 levels of Homeflow plan. We're about to introduce Homeflow Lite, Homeflow Standard, Homeflow Business, basically, and Homeflow Enterprise. Now, Homeflow Business, that middle package is what you've historically been used to with Homeflow. That's still going to be the mainstay package that people buy, but we're about to introduce a low price to compete with those low price suppliers, basically, very affordable entry level website. That is for single branch startups. There's some conditions apply to it and there's some limitations with it, but it's basically BMW, who have historically built 5 and 7 series, launching the 3 series and the 1 series, bringing that quality, that enterprise grade quality, and making it affordable to absolutely everybody with the best grade of SEO, the best grade of design, the best grade of performance and service. So that's big news in the market. We're about to launch that. And vice versa, at the same time, we're launching Homeflow Enterprise, which is at the other end of the market. That's fully programmatic and API, so you can use your own tooling and build. It's like all the stuff we've been talking about earlier. You can actually, as a design firm or internal designers, you can build your own website. We've had some clients doing that for a little while, but this is going to open up that so that they get access to all the tools and they get access to being able to write their own templates and write their own, and actually program their own Homeflow extensions in their own system, build their own pages on that. Much like our design partners do. That's how we build high-end websites. Partners build on top of it, but that's opening up to clients as well. So that's big news. Does that answer your question on pricing?
It really is good. I mean, actually, and having a very common trait, isn't it, is to have different tiers there so that you don't have one product trying to promise to be all things to all people. And actually, because the problem is you'll get people that really want the kind of enterprise level for the light price. That's one of the biggest challenges when you're out there. And to educate them, it's harder to do before you've differentiated them in terms of tiers like that. So I think that will go down really well in terms of setting expectation and matching the right price point up to the right product, isn't it? Really good.
That's exactly right. And just explain to clients the limitations, because clearly, if you want to serve people well, you can't do it on a shoestring. You have to charge appropriately, because we have to balance. Customers are very demanding, and they want quick service, and they want good quality service, and they want to get it right first time, and you have to balance the resources to be able to do that. But there we go. That's pricing for you.
Okay. Right. So just talking about other things as well. So in terms of sort of beyond websites, we've looked at integrations, haven't we? Marketing content. What else is there? For example, you've mentioned a couple of times the Boomerang product. Probably worth elaborating just in terms of that and some of the other services that Homeflow get involved in that aren't immediately obvious.
Sure. So yeah, you're quite right. Thank you. Boomerang is an autoresponder. We were the first people to introduce it, and we're still the only people to do it quite the way we do it, which is when you get a Rightmove inquiry coming through to you. Predominantly Rightmove and Supplier inquiries and on the market inquiries are applicant traffic. Predominantly, not exclusively, but predominantly they're applicant traffic. Some of them are multi-sent traffic, what they call MAMs, multi-agent mailings. So they're one email that's been sent to 10 agents, and it's all about being scrambled to being the fastest. And that's sort of like feeding the chicken water, if you like, to make it a bit heavier. It's puffing up the portal value, and the portals have had varying approaches to that over time, where they've puffed it up and then they've clawed it back for quality and what have you in the mix. But what Boomerang does is it ingests all of those inquiries, and it sends a branded response instantaneously in your agency's colors. So if you are a red and green agency, and your name is Agent and Sons, it'll take the inquiry, it'll match it to the property, it'll find some similar properties on your books, and it'll find the URLs of those properties on your website, and it'll build a branded email and respond immediately. And you don't need to be a Homeflow website customer to do that. We do need to check your website, because there's some websites that are not adequate quality that you can uniquely address the properties. But as long as your website is half decent and we can get at the property IDs, then we can build the Boomerang product. And frankly, if it's not half decent and you haven't got uniquely addressable properties, we should be talking to you about fixing that anyway. So Boomerang is not one of our free products. It's one of our charge for products. But it's £50 a branch per month, and there's some discounts for larger agency groups. And if people are interested in auto-responding, they should get in touch.
And I've seen that, and actually, auto-responder's got a bit of a bad name, a bad title. Just to be very, very clear, this is a world away from an autoresponder that people think of in terms of like an Outlook, I'm out of the office autoresponder. This is it's seemingly personalized data responding back to the person, isn't it? And giving them a really, really hands-on service.
It's not seemingly, it is genuinely personalized data. If Simon Whale makes an inquiry on a £330,000 house in Walmsgrove, it will say, "Hello, Simon. My name is Peter. I'm the branch manager at the Walmsgrove branch. I will be giving you a call about this. And whilst we're at it, and I've got your attention and you're still at the computer," it doesn't actually use those words. It says, "Here's a property at 320,000 and here's a property at 360,000, also in Walmsgrove on our website." And above all that, has a nice, great big photo of the property you've inquired about, saying, "If you'd like more information about this property, it's on our website." And it's instant. It comes straight back to you. It's actually not quite instant because there's some API delays on some of the different portals, but it's near instant. So the idea is, if you're sat at your computer and you're making a browsing on a portal and you've made an inquiry, you get an email back in the agent's colors from a person inviting, saying, "I'll be in touch. This is at 9 o'clock at night. I'll be in touch in the morning." Helps for BEAG.
Come on, what's BEAG?
Is that Bradley's? Is that Zoe from? Forgive me.
Helps for BEAG, Bradley's estate agency group. Helps for estate agency. I assume so.
I believe so. There we go. Fantastic.
There you go. It's nice to have validation whilst you're live on.
Thank you, Zoe. That's great. Forgive me. I got foxed by the BEAG, but if that is correct, then yeah, absolutely, they are a customer who do use that product, and it definitely. And you can measure, because you're in benchmarking, you can measure the proportion of traffic. I can't tell you for Bradley specifically, but I can tell you for another whopping great big 100 brancher that where we measured it just recently, 3.5% of their traffic was coming out of that tool.
Sorry, no. So what Zoe's saying here, sorry, we got that wrong.
I beg your pardon. Well, that does explain, because I was very embarrassed at not recognizing the client's name, but knowing that there was a client, BEAG, who do use it. Okay, great. That's good news.
That absolutely is, isn't it? Because of course it is one of the mystery shop elements of a number of the different awards. So it's just delivering on that basic premise of technology, isn't it? Doing more with less. And whereas it used to be really, really blunt and inefficient in the old days, just sending generic information, where technology's got really interesting now is it can be personalized. So it does feel like that somebody's taken the time and energy to do it. So that's brilliant. It's really good. We've got Gary coming in here. Let's just see this. You're going to disappear off the screen because it's quite a robust question, but let's have a look. Might be a daft question. There are no daft questions, Gary. But are you seeing agents using features for visitors to the site, such as you visited us before, we're interested with this. Are you still interested? Do you know it's now sold? Want to see others similar? Hope this makes sense. I'm thinking about repeat visitors to the site who maybe haven't registered. I'm still getting reminded by June about a pair of shoes. So what I'm thinking he's saying here is, are we keeping up with the rest of the world in terms of innovation on websites?
Yeah, there's two parts to Gary's question there. Great, thank you, Gary. You're absolutely right that you can do retargeting advertising. Yeah. And we do that for some customers, which is we put pixels on the page, we watch the visitors who come, and you can then retarget them when they're off in their Yahoo email client, or they're off on their Facebook pages, or they're off on news websites. You can send adverts that follow you around the web. And yes, we do that for customers to remind them to come back. The other thing in that question is we can also personalize on the website itself. So we have several of our clients will have, if you go into the commercial section, or if you go into the letting section or the auction section, then the homepage will change depending on your visit. So we will personalize the homepage of your website. I believe we do that for Dakers, and I think we do that for one of the big websites I mentioned earlier that we're launching has got that certainly built into it. However, it's that sort of personalization. But the final thing that we do, and we do this for lots of our customers, we have a piece of functionality called "We think you may find these properties interesting." Snappy name, I know. And what it does, but you never name it out on the website. What it does is it basically looks at anything you've viewed as a property, anything that you have bookmarked and saved as a property, particularly, and anything that falls within a search that you have saved. So if I say I'm looking in Totnes up to £500,000, it will create a profile, or an implied search. And by implied search, I mean a search that you've run where the user has not given you any data. So there's four things contributing there. There's implied searches, explicit searches, viewed properties, that's implied interest in a property, and explicit interest in a property. I bookmarked and saved it or made an inquiry on it. And we take all of that and we mix it all together and we just produce you a basket of properties we think are interesting. And that's a module that you can use anywhere on our websites. So again, that's a point of difference that we haven't even thought to talk about between us and our competition, is we've got that kind of level of personalization that's come out of our old portal engineering efforts from yesteryear, where you have to do that kind of grade of personalization. And we're bringing it and commoditizing it and making it available to independent single branch estate agents to make their websites really powerful. So thank you, Gary. Yes, we can do that as well.
That's a really good question and comprehensively answered there. Thank you. So talk to us then about obviously you've mentioned you're really, really kind in terms of what you're doing for Kerfuffle members. Could you just reiterate that just so that we can obviously make sure that everyone's taking advantage of that?
Yes, certainly. So the things we're doing for Kerfuffle are we're inviting everybody to join benchmarking for free. And that is all. It takes about 2 minutes for us to set up. And then we can send you the report, and you do not need to engage with us. However, if you do want to engage with us, we will do a 40-minute phone call with you, there or thereabouts, and we can talk you through all of these charts. And we will have prepared before that call, and we would have looked up what we think is causing the problems and what we think is causing the strengths on your website versus your competitors. And there is absolutely no charge other than your attention for doing that. Obviously, we hope that you then go on to want to work this on the Boomerang, or you want us to help you with your PPC marketing or advise you on your SEO or build a website. We obviously hope that happens, but we engage with plenty of customers. Like take Farrell Hayworth, for example, not a customer of ours, but we're in the benchmarking and we engage with them and we help them out understanding the analytics. And we hope that one day they're going to work. In fact, they do work this on PPC, but that's a different story. But we hope that one day they will want to buy a tool off of us. So that's our first offer. The second offer is we can take that a stage further for any agents who are properly committed. And the reason I say committed is it's just 2 days of our time. We charge quite a lot of money for doing this ordinarily, like about £2,000. So a couple of days of work for an agency group. And we will go away and we will tear apart the website and your social media and your benchmarking, your benchmarking traffic and your Google Analytics and look at your Google performance, your search engine rankings. We'll actually analyze you properly. And we'll give you custom recommendations. And we promise that within those recommendations, there will be some stuff that is actionable for free by you with your existing systems. So you cannot lose from doing this. We also promise we're going to show you some really big, highlights of where you could go to get big improvements in your performance. So it's not your average digital marketing review. And we film them. And if you want to do it, and if we have a client who's properly committed, says, look, I promise I'm going to use it. Basically, we need to feel like we're not going to blow 2 days of effort preparing this. Have someone go, yeah, thanks, didn't watch it. That is heartbreaking. But if you've got someone who's saying, no, I've done my benchmarking review, I properly get this stuff, I'm really interested. I'm not necessarily buying a website from you, but I'm properly interested in understanding my online marketing, and we're going to pay attention. We're going to do this. That's all we need. And again, then it's no charge for a Kerfuffle member to do that. It's a charge ordinary if you come to us and approach us. It's called the Site Doctor, and we will go through and we will properly analyze your digital marketing and your website. And then you can either do it as a meeting or you can do it as a video review. And you've seen the kind of videos we produce because they're coming up for the Kerfuffle campus. So that's the second thing that we can do for members, which Sarah did ask me to keep up your sleeve as something you could give away. But now we've just gone and broadcast it live.
Well, don't worry about that. I'm always good with breaking the rules. Look, Jeremy, we've obviously hit the well past the hour stage, as I knew inevitably we were going to do. Thank you very much for obviously offering that out there. I encourage anyone to go and have a look at obviously the landing page on Kerfuffle for Homeflow. We're going to be obviously putting out a lot more information. Jeremy's been really, really kind in sharing a lot of this information with us. And of course, you can get much more detailed. Have a look at the reviews there. For example, we've just had the most recent video review from Kai from Bradley's, as you spoke about, testimonial from one of the biggest and best agents in the country there, talking about what value you guys deliver. So, we're always looking for that mutual endorsement. And indeed, you've just got another little bit in there. The love, looking at the amount of, this is like a dating site now. I feel like
well, don't please, because we're all in pink.
Love.
The concept of dating you, Simon, whilst you're an attractive bloke, I could probably pass on it.
Oh, well, I've put all that time and energy now. It feels like 3 a.m. in a nightclub, and I've done all the work and got no results.
Well, that's another story. We need to talk about that another time. Thank you very much for inviting us on, by the way. Thank you. That was a pleasure to do it. Great fun.
We've really enjoyed it, and of course we'll have you back on because you've got so much more to say. Okay, Jeremy, thank you very much. Cheers, guy.